And this is a panel discussion of the Fourways wood turning collaboration. These four guys, not me, but these other four guys on screen, they've been making the same project once a month and making a video about it for 9 months now. So being 9 months into it, they thought they'd like to have a panel discussion. So my name's John Kelsey. I normally run the Lancaster Woodturners Weekly Coffee Hour. So let's do a little warm up here. One of the things I found missing in the Fourways videos was I don't really know enough about any of you guys. I'd like to ask a few simple questions. Is your workshop inside your house or in an outbuilding? Richard, how about you?
Mine's in an outbuilding in a tin shed, and in fact I have two sheds. One which was going to be the woodworking one, and then I had one which was my clean one when I was intending to start painting and that kind of thing. I was offered a snooker table, so that occupied that shed, and the clean room then moved into the wood room, and the turning, which was running down a lot, moved it into the present space, which is around 8 by 10 feet in feet. It's 2.4 by 3.5 meters.
How about you, Sam? What kind of shop? Where's your shop set up?
We lived in Wyoming for about 38 years, and we moved up here to Billings, Montana 5 years ago, and we bought a house that didn't have a shop. So I had to build a shop. It's a 40 by 40 building. So I was able to, kind of customize it to what I wanted. I've got like 8 220 outlets, and it's really overkill. I got 4 lathes, and I go out there every day and turn.
Okay. And are you living in the city or in the suburbs or in the woods or where?
Well, Billings has about 120,000 people, and we're on the west end, and we're kind of out in the country a little bit, but about 5 minutes we're in town. So it's good.
Okay. How about you, Tomislav?
Well, I have a shop that is connected to the house, just between the house and retaining wall. So that was the only place I could at the time when I married my lovely wife. Yeah, it's a small shop, relatively small shop. It's around 4 meters wide, and maybe 5 long. We actually live. It's park nature, Medvednica, so it's a green area. You can't build anything just around us, so it's nice woods and everything. So it's an outskirt of Zagreb, the capital of Croatia. So.
Okay.
But in just a few minutes, we are in a city, so we're not far away. So it's a lovely place to be.
How about you, Mike?
Well, I'm in the northern suburbs of Atlanta, a place called Sewanee. My neighborhood's on the Chattahoochee River. I have a basement shop in the foothills here, beginning of Georgia foothills. There's a lot of hills and valleys, so there's a lot of folks with with basements, and so I have a walk-in basement. And it's finished, so it's heated and cooled, and I have a bathroom in the basement. It's about 15 feet wide and 45 feet long.
And are you in the city or in a suburb or out in the farmland?
I'm in the northern suburbs.
Okay. And who makes a living? Tomislav, you make a living with turning. Am I right about that?
Yes. I'm a production turner, so the YouTube started as a sort of a side, to promote myself, my work, and everything. But most of my earnings are from wood turning. So.
Okay. How about you, Sam?
I really never have relied entirely on woodworking or wood turning. I started out making cabinets and furniture 40 years ago. I spent 40 years in public education as a teacher and a school counselor. So the wood turning income is very nice.
Now, is that from selling work or from teaching?
I do sell stuff mostly on Etsy. I've got stuff in a couple little galleries. There's a museum in Wyoming that I have some pieces, but mostly it's YouTube, and I do classes in my shop here in Billings and that sort of thing. A little demonstrating here and there.
How about you, Mike?
I'm a hobby turner for sure. I retired early. I started wood turning right after I retired, and I never in my wildest dream would I ever thought of making any money. So it pays for my hobby and then a little extra.
Is that YouTubes or selling work?
I don't sell work to speak of. Somebody will occasionally buy something small, but yeah, it's primarily YouTube, but it's also the remote demonstrations, local demonstrations, classes in my shop, but mostly YouTube video. A few articles along the way, like Sam.
How about you, Richard? How do you do these days? You still sell work?
I do, yes. It's I've sold many of the pieces which you've seen on YouTube. There aren't really very many places to sell these days in Australia or around my neck of the woods. I've never done consignment because I never needed to, so that was a kind of different thing. And reflecting on this, because I was thinking, knowing this was going to come up, I really haven't done any serious production work this century, I realize. So I get a few odd orders coming through I've got an annual order for trophy bases, where I make about 10 of them, and it's extremely good money for about an hour and a half's work. So I have things like that, and I'm gently selling off the pieces I did collect or retain, trying to downsize. So I don't really want to acquire anything. I'm trying to even tools. So
whose idea was this Fourways? How did this come about?
it was Tomislav.
Well, how did he talk you all into participating?
Well, I contacted Richard first, and we spoke about that idea a little bit, and then he suggested, I believe, Mike, and I suggested the Sam, or vice versa, something like that. But the general idea was, through watching YouTube videos, you can see really bad stuff and dangerous stuff and all of that. And I was in a mission to help out other beginners to have like multiple ways of doing the same thing with different methods of how you want to accomplish, let's say, a ball or anything like that. So that's the general idea behind Fourways.
Well, we're going to look at each of the projects that you guys have done and look at what the different ways were. Before we quite get to that, I asked each of you to give me 3 slides of your work, and that would represent you really. So I want to just have a quick look at that. And so, Sam, tell us why did you choose these pieces?
I think it's a good representation of what I do. I started embellishing my pieces maybe around 2005, which means coloring and staining and different things. The top left picture is the metal reactive paint, and I've talked to Richard about that. He does a lot of that. In fact, I've got one of his pieces in my little display over here in the living room. I love turning boxes. I started watching Richard Raffan turn boxes in his old VCR tapes, which I still use. They still work after all these years. I really learned so much from Richard early on. The red piece on the bottom, I like to do finials. I do thread chasing. So the base of that blackwood finial is threaded into the body of the piece with inserts. And that's box elder. Box elder grows all over the West and a lot of America, and it's readily available. Farmers and ranchers don't like box elder. It's a nuisance, but I've got a pretty good stash of burl wood. And when I stain those pieces, I stain them from the inside to begin with. I turn them fairly thin, less than 1/4 of an inch, and the dye wicks through to the surface, and it kind of follows the burl and the grain in the wood. So there you go.
How about you, Mike? Why did you choose these 3 pieces?
Well, I think they're sort of they're kind of representational. I turn a few bowls, not as many as I used to. I've kind of grown out of bowls and harvesting larger pieces of wood and having to haul it into my shop and chainsaw it. That one is a river birch. It's probably 18 inches across. It came from a tree in my neighborhood. The acorn, I started threading after watching learning from Sam, starting in about 2012, 2013, and I enjoy thread chasing. I don't do enough of it. Some of it by hand, some of it by jig, but I make a lot of acorn boxes. And then chess pieces are probably kind of somewhat of a representation of the kind of smaller spindle style projects I do. This was my second chess set. And I made the board. I don't do much flat work, and I've since gotten rid of my jointer and planer as I try to kind of downsize my shop a little bit.
Richard, how about you?
I think like Tomislav, I had quite a time wondering what to pick. So I homed in on these because I do like working green wood. So the one on top, the bowl is it's got 3 little feet, so what I call the tripod bowls. And I made that I think in Norway on the Norwegian wood turning cruise about 10 years ago, and it's been used daily ever since. So that's how. And one of my hobby horses is that people don't use enough stuff, enough of what they make. So I'd like to show those kinds of things as often as possible. The what I call the pot, the enclosed forms, that's the one with the verdigris and the pink inside. I've done quite a few hundred of those over the years. I started them late last century, about 97, I think. And generally sell those in little clusters, and I enjoy making them. I'm not sure that people really think of me in relation to that kind of thing. I tend to be kind of classified as just a bowl turner. But there's that. And then the other things I enjoy making are the citadel, what I call the citadel boxes, which really inspired by old buildings and castles and things that look a bit battered. And it's a wonderful way I found of using up wood, which is not much use for anything else. And often you don't need to even have the same kind of wood in a piece like that, provided it's red underneath. That seems to be enough. So, and with those kinds of pieces, I'm always trying to get faster and looser with everything. It's partly a statement against very, very fine finishes, which people just seem to going finer and finer and shinier and shinier and shinier. And so I'm reacting against that with those. But I was tempted to put up a scoop, which they kept me alive in the 70s. Haven't made many for the last 40 years, but no, it's very difficult to know what to pick.
I couldn't reduce Tomislav down because he makes, that's what he does, is make sets. So anyway, well, Tomislav, why did you choose these particular sets?
These are pretty much the most that I do. And now the top left are inspired by Richard's flat, or not flat, actually, the shallow plates. But I also make them like a flat or shallow dishes and deeper ones for soup and like stews or something like that. And people really like those. And just recently, actually a year ago, I started to paint the rim as well. So they really like that as well. It's time consuming, and especially when I have to like I rough turn those. Doesn't matter if they're dry, so they just acclimate a little bit better, because mostly lately that I accumulate dry stuff, dry wood, it's really temperamental. So try to negotiate that to a minimum. The picture on the right is also, it's pretty common. Like often customers ask me to like make the cake stand, or like a little set of like a platter or a chopping board, and the little tiny dishes as well, like a serving for a salt or a pepper or anything like that. And obviously on that picture there is a bowl as well, which also represent like the most of the stuff that I sell, which are bowls. And the bottom picture is actually the most sell stuff that I do. So it's a set of these kind of it's 6-inch diameter bowls, and again, roughly 1 year ago I started to paint the rim as well on these, and people quite like the set of either 4 or 6. And with those also they get like this squarish shallow plate. And on like 5 or 6 sets they also request like salt and pepper shakers in like either apple or pear shape. So this is pretty much what I do. Like many of the times, people give me idea what they want to like turn to get and to order, and that obviously then manipulates my way what I can do. And for instance, the lately 200 cups of shot glasses. So you know, people come up with stuff, and I just make them happen. So
This is the first collaboration there, the first that you each made, the lidded box. Now, who proposed this one?
ooh.
I think I did.
Okay.
Yes, I think Sam did. Yes.
And what do you guys see in here? What did you each notice that was different that somebody else did, or did you learn anything, or were you surprised by somebody else's approach?
I think there was a stipulation that it had to be decorated somehow. Wasn't there, Sam? Can you remember that?
I think it was
It had to have color or something or other.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. So I remember I was stressing about that. I was out of my comfort zone, which I think was partly the idea. And
yeah, I guess it probably was. But you didn't decorate it from what I can see, or maybe you did. I can't tell from the photograph.
no, there are some little dots of epoxy, different color on the top, which is a kind of orangey as far as I can remember. It's not a terribly good photograph.
I do remember you had little orange dots in it, but I didn't see in this one anybody doing any particularly different technique. Did I miss, aside from the decorative techniques? But in the turning process, it seemed to me everybody pretty much approached it the same way. Am I right about that?
Pretty close. Yeah. Pretty
much.
close. We were
I think so. Yes.
quite similar on this first project, and but what it's kind of different is the different design, and how to approach that design, how to make that particular shape, and holding the different pieces on the lathe as well. So doesn't have to be like always like a technique involved differently, but it's like a different method of holding, or just different approach on design, or solving a little problems along the way.
We're each going to come up with different designs. I suspect we also make an effort to be a bit different. I know, is that general? I'm not looking at you. I'm not sure whether you're agreeing or disagreeing. I know with that box of mine, it was a loose lid, and I wanted the lid to come off and be a bowl in its own right. So I was trying to work around that, which I think is what happened with Sam's as well.
I've got a lid that sort of sits inside the base, and Mark Baker, the late Mark Baker, turned a lot of these, and I sort of, I don't want to say copied it, but I was inspired, and I kind of turned it along those lines. But it's always fun to anticipate and think about what the other three are going to turn. Can I should I say it? Can I kind of outdo what they're doing? It's really fun, and it's a guessing game. I see Mike is smiling, so I don't know. What do you think?
Well, did you know what the other guys were going to do until they'd done it, or do you find out when we all do when the videos are posted?
When the videos are posted.
We just have a general topic and go from there.
We have no idea what's going to come up, so
it's a surprise for us. Yeah.
Yes.
Did any of you draw this piece before turning it, or are you just going straight into the wood with a chisel?
I drew mine.
I very rarely draw. I know pretty well where I'm going, but I rely on my eye as I'm going along.
Yeah, I very rarely draw anything. I did draw my acorn box. I did a video on an acorn box. Well, that was the pop fit.
Yeah, we'll come to that. Yeah.
And I've turned a lot of really ugly acorns. So, and I picked one from Alan Batty used to turn, and I really like that shape. So I kind of modeled it after him, but otherwise they're not good, my acorns.
How about you, Mike? You said you drew this. What part of it did you draw? The shape or the finish?
I drew the shape. I had found an image similar to this on Pinterest, and then I modified it a little bit. And I had done one or two similar ones like this where I wanted an inset lid and I wanted a textured band, and then I needed to border that band with a bead to make the texturing pop, and then I wanted a contrasting finial, so I used a piece of ebony.
Tomislav, you told me you almost never draw as well.
Yeah, not much, or really rarely I draw it. Only if it's something like really complicated, or it's something like interlocking or anything like that. But in this case, I knew that I want to like make a band of color between the lid and the base. But the fortunate thing was, well, I had to do it the other time as well. I believe the base, I didn't turn on the camera, so I had to do it again, and that is where I adjusted the design a little bit. So I didn't draw it, but I had the opportunity to make it again. So
Okay.
I suspect the need to draw may come from less experience. I suspect I have fewer hours on the lathe than the other three distinguished turners.
yeah, there's nothing wrong to draw it. It's another approach, and like I said, I do sketch something, but mostly when I like don't have any inspiration or anything like that, so I'm just fiddling around and or
Uh-huh.
using a mirror, stuff like that, and just try to see what I want to make.
So how did you choose the color you put in this?
On this one, it was actually quite simple. I only have two, so it was either a black or this bluish, and I had to get myself a little bit more range of colors. So
Okay, so that was
that's
baked in other words.
yeah.
Anything else to say about these that anybody wants to say?
I think it seems to me, I don't know about the others, but I think when we're doing our projects, we're more educational maybe than just showing off. So we're looking for different techniques just to give people watching a kind of broader idea of what's possible. That's the sense I get from everybody.
It's quite an effort to like a think and make a product like this the difference from the others. So it's a struggle. Like I'm trying to anticipate what the others are going to make, so I don't make anything similar. So but so far we were quite successful in that. So
Okay, well, let's look at the next one. Wide rim bowl. Who's proposed this one?
I think I come after Sam, don't I? Yes, I think I might have been.
Yes, yeah.
Well, you talk to it then. What do you see here?
I mean, I've earned a living basically making bowls. I'm not very comfortable with projects as such. I've really got to start thinking then.
You and Tomislav went to similar places, but Mike and Sam took quite different approaches, even though they're both out there with big lumps of green wood.
Yes. Yeah, well, I had the possibility of a natural edge, but I can't. It's a long time ago now. I can't remember exactly the details. But looking at these now, I think with Tomislav and myself both kind of looking to make utilitarian stuff, which we're wanting to sell to a kind of fairly ready market. We hope, that's a slightly different approach to the other two, which are going to be much more difficult to sell. Certainly in the kind of markets we'd be in, I think. The big natural edge stuff or big, more flamboyant pieces, much easier to sell in the US than anywhere else, I think.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, because I'm not concerned with selling pieces, I tend to give them away to volunteers that I work with at church and with the AARP Tax Aid Foundation. This one, I remember when it was proposed, it kind of sent a little bit of a chill because I didn't have any wood on hand. I had let most of my green stock deteriorate or got used up. And then one day I heard a neighbor's yard a chainsaw. I went over there to investigate, and they were taking down a sweet gum tree. And I said, would you mind chopping a chunk of that and throwing it over the fence? So this was once turned green bowl, so it kind of warped it nicely and had nice color to it.
Yeah.
What's your story, Sam?
This particular piece in this picture is some more box elder, And when I turn a burl like this, I sometimes like to leave the rim a little wider rather than, turn it down to a quarter of an inch or something. You lose a lot of that burl figure. So that kind of gave me permission to do that. I haven't really turned a lot of the bowls in the lower pictures, the two in the lower. I just haven't for some reason. So it was simple as that. I just kind of thought, yeah, it'd be a good piece to leave the rim a little bit wider for this project.
Did
Yeah.
anybody see a different technique used here in these that you can recall? Seems to me they were all pretty much done the same way, except two of them were once turned and two were twice turned.
I tend to think that just kind of reinforces a sensible approach to turning, because we don't. Yes, we don't. We're not really carbide tip turners here, so I think well, I know I try to veer people away from carbide, and just show how efficient and clean you can work with traditional tools.
You've been an apostle of that point of view for a very long time.
Yes, and I'll probably carry on until I fall off my perch. So.
Anything else on this set that anybody wants to say?
No.
Okay. 6-inch cube. I thought this was pretty interesting. You guys took quite different approaches here.
Yes, Mike was the most shocking, I think. Surprising. I'm sorry, surprising.
I thought Tomislav was very clever in getting
Excellent,
5 pieces out of the block of wood. That was not very, very canny of you.
Thank you, thank you. And just to add to this, a few of the clients asked to make stuff like this now, and with a double purpose or even like triple the purpose. So that's, you never know what the customers will want the next. So once they see something like this, they want like a lid that acts like a plate or anything like that similar. So
very clever stuff. Sam, you went for the burl. You're showing off the figure in the burl is what you were after there, yeah?
Yeah, it's another piece of box elder, which is, I could just turn that forever. It fit within that 6-inch cube parameter. And just a note, since I finished that piece, I actually, when I was working on that, I intended to put an insert in it and a finial, which I have done since then, but I didn't show that in the initial Fourways video. So it's just a simple hollow form. Yeah.
Yeah, that was lovely.
And you made yours were greenwood, Richard.
Mine was green because I don't have any dry blocks that kind of size. Because amongst my other downsizing, that includes the wood stock. So I was, as you can see, they've warped slightly, or quite a lot. The one on the left. And if I'd had any decent burl like Sam, I'd have gone for that. But good quality burl is not easy to come by around here. So my other thought was to cut it up into lots of little bowls and maybe make 2 or 3 dozen small ones. But I think it was probably a matter of time. Maybe next time we'll do this again at some stage.
Why did you make 2?
Just for comparison.
And did they both were they both from the same wood?
Yep. By the look of it, yes, I think they were both claret ash. Yes. And
as I recollect, you did microwave drying on those.
Oh yes, yeah, and that just basically speeds up the process. I mean, I can, if you just let them dry out in 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe 3 or 4 weeks, they'll have distorted to much the same thing. But a microwave, you get it done in about 10 minutes. So, and you also know if it's going to split fairly quickly. So it's just kind of pushing the status quo a bit, I suppose.
Do you ever have a fire in the microwave?
Not yet. No, I haven't.
Don't dry lignum vitae in the microwave. You'll have a fire. A little greasy.
Yes. Yeah, and somebody made a comment on the tube thing that they had one burst into flame after they'd taken it out of the oven.
Yeah.
Which is a bit worrying. Tend to put them in for 2 or 3 minutes at a time, and I want them to come out too hot to hold and steaming.
Next was the stool. Whose idea was this one?
That would be me. Yeah.
It was.
Okay. And you made a very contemporary, like Scandinavian modern looking stool with 2 stretchers, if I'm seeing that picture right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, like the way, just do it through tenon on the stretcher itself, but on the leg where it meets the leg, it's just a simple tenon and a mortise. So
Sam, you cheated. You didn't make a turn top on your stool.
This was near Valentine's Day, as I recall.
Well, but in my defense, I did thread the legs into the seat. That was a thread chasing project, if you recall. I used
I do.
cast acrylic and yeah.
Sam's version was great. It was like you can disassemble it and you can ship it anywhere, and it's actually quite good idea for mass production. So
Quite a lot of work, though.
Yeah. Yeah, my little 3-year-old granddaughter has that down in Las Vegas.
It's a nice design. How about you, Richard? You made, as I recollect, your tenons were kind of sloppy in the board holes as well.
Yes. I'm not very good at these things, but it's as a design, it's the most successful. I've made 4 stools, I think, and the others were a bit lower. But this is very comfortable. It's the right height. The only design flaw is that if you want to pull it out from underneath anywhere, you've got to grab a leg, because the top is the actual seat's a bit slippery, and the slope of it, you can't grab it. So if I'm going to make another one, I'd put up some kind of bead in there so your fingers would have something to grab underneath the seat all the way around.
So your production over the years didn't include stools?
I didn't need to. No. I was always had a problem keeping up in the 70s, keeping up with scoops and salad bowls, and then in the 80s with big red gum bowls, and it was all I could do to keep up with the orders anyway. I had 3 really good galleries, and they kept me fully occupied and then I would be overseas for maybe 6 weeks, and that just added to the stress of production, really.
How about you, Mike? Have you made that stool before?
I did. I saw Alan Leland had some of these at one of the symposiums, maybe the one in Atlanta, and I remember it's like, oh, these are just absolutely gorgeous. So I made a shop stool after that, and so when we had this project, I wanted to make another one because it is a fun project. It's kind of a Windsor style.
Very nice. Yeah, very nice. Anybody else got anything else you want to say about the stools?
I just thought it was a very nice project, and again successful. You had 4 different kind of variations, didn't you? You had the decoration and the simpler. So I think gave people a lot of insights into how to go about making one.
Yeah, I agree with that. Embellished bowls. Sam, I think this was your idea, this one.
I think it was.
Did you know?
Did you have that before you gave us the project, Sam?
No, I did not. But that's a good one, Richard. Like I say, I've done embellishing over the years, and there's a little bit of pyrography on there, and I'll give my wife a shout out. She's become a very good pyrography artist. She does really, really nice work. But I did a little airbrushing and a little carving, and it turned out okay. I wasn't sure. There were 2 or 3 times during that process that I went back to a tool and took the surface away. It was just, I like to use the word hideous, and like my dragonflies were not good. So anyway, it turned out okay, and I quit when I was ahead, I guess.
Well, I think that was what made it interesting, because people get to a stage where they think they've got that far, and they think, well, I don't want to mess it up, and it maybe could be better, but not, but I think by pushing it a bit and showing that you can take stuff away and improve the state, improve the situation, is a very good thing to show.
Yeah.
I agree. And what's embellished about yours, Richard? Oh, it's the 3 beads or 2 beads.
Yes,
So-
what indeed. Yes, I'm pushed to do embellishment, so it's but the beads seem to kind of cover it. I
And
hope.
Mike, yours was a chatter tool, I think.
It was the Sorby spiraling and texturing tool. I've done, it's been one of my most popular interactive remote demonstrations, and I've always liked using texturing tool, and so that's the way I went.
Yes.
And Tomislav, you made a colored rim on that. Is this the one was it melted crayons?
Yeah, it was a disaster, but I mean, it turned out okay, and I had 2 of them made. The other one after that, I thought I could do a little bit better, but it turned out even worse. So they both sit on the shelf and just waiting the day that I'll turn away that rim, so I have a little bit shallower bowls to sell. So
What's the disaster? What's disastrous about it?
I didn't like. Now, I don't like work very much with the epoxy, but the top layer of epoxy would really make it maybe a little bit more clearer inside and protect the crayons, obviously. Now, they're not like rubbing off or anything like that, but you can gouge it, I guess, with a spoon or anything. So I saw the idea actually for sort of a river table, but instead of glass or epoxy, they use the crayons, and along the table you have different colors. So that was the general idea, but didn't work out as I planned. So
Well, it's a pretty nice piece of wood. What is it? What's the species?
yeah, I think it's English walnut, but it's came to like a stage of rot almost, and it changed the color tremendously, and the sapwood was all rotten away. It was like a sponge. So only the hardwood, the brown stuff inside was only usable, and that was the only thing I could use. But like I said, it changed the color, and the stripes are a little bit different. So it was a nice piece of wood. So
you're going to take the top off eventually, are you? Yeah.
on both of them, yes,
Right. Another video.
probably, yeah.
Yeah. Anything else to say about this group?
No, I like the way Sam's came out. It's the kind of upright shape. It just it's not really a shape which would normally appeal to me that much, but I think it works pretty well in that. And it's got the sky and the feel of the kind of the prairies, I suppose, isn't it?
It goes well with the painting and the
Yeah,
carving
yeah.
and everything. Really great.
Thank you.
Okay, this was a hollow form. I don't know whose topic this was. I lost track of that completely.
That may have been mine. I don't remember.
I
Okay.
think so, yeah.
Yes, I think so. Yes.
So in yours, Mike, are those like holes in the side of the piece? I think that is.
Yeah, that was a piece of cherry burl I had on hand. We took down a number of cherry trees at my church that were loaded with burl. So I had a nice piece, and I thought I could capture the holes properly on the side, and I was very pleased that I was able to do that.
Is it painted inside, or is that just the light?
No, that's just the color,
Okay.
the light.
You're in the same vein, Sam, with something pretty similar.
That piece of wood I used was mesquite, and I was at a wood turning symposium probably 5 years ago or longer, and somebody walked up with this really nice big slab of mesquite. I'd never turned it before. It had sat there because I was a little bit nervous about turning it. I thought it would be really hard. It wasn't all that bad, and it had a little bit of a natural edge on it, or so I tried to leave that, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Pretty simple, but yeah, I like to turn hollow forms. I usually put a finial or something on top of them so I can do some thread chasing, but not on this one.
What's your favorite hollowing method? Did you use a rig?
I do use one. It's called a stabilizer. Trent Bosch makes it down in Colorado, and I've had that for 10 years, and it's really awesome.
But I enjoyed making this one, and it's so it's done pretty much by hand, and we're using a gouge with a very long left wing, very long bevel. So, you can get in on something like that with a detail gouge, spindle detail gouge.
So
Yeah.
I pretty much went with a little bit like wider opening, much like Richard. I mean, most of my work and technique is inspired or learned from him. So from Richard, and on this video as well, I used that kind of a long bevel on the ball gouge, and it really works awesome. And it's just a great tool to like top half of this kind of enclosed parts, or you know.
The big problem using the gouge is that you get big shavings, and they're difficult to get out sometimes, especially with a really small opening. So.
And that's the advantage of having a hole in the side too. It ejects the shavings.
But I don't have a compressor to blast them out either. So
yeah, I use a Lyle Jameson style rig. It's very easy to use. It's kind of effortless, whereas doing it by hand, for me, it tends to be more of a white knuckle flight.
So we got 3 different approaches, or 2 different mechanical hollowing methods, and then 2 pots made with regular gouges. Yeah,
gouges and scrapers.
Yeah, scrapers.
Gouges and scrapers. Yeah. Natural edge bowl.
That was probably my idea. I don't know. I like natural edge bowls.
Yes.
Well, then your bowl doesn't have a natural edge.
It does. It's in the vertical plane. I just arranged it vertically for presentation, since it's not unlike a Richard, it's not a practical piece. It's more artistic, but I was real successful with this crotch capturing that flame.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece of wood, that's for sure. Richard, you've made that one a lot, I think, that bowl.
I used 40 years ago we went through a batch of making thin natural edge bowls, I think, but I haven't done any really since the mid or the early 80s. They just again haven't really sold, so in my market. But it's with that particular bowl, it went almost football shaped. I mean, it became substantially longer than wide, and was likely to fall over because the balance got all wrong. I wasn't that pleased with it as a bowl because it when I looked at, which I comment on in the video, I think, because it lurched over it just wasn't balanced on the rim. But it's found a good home, so somebody liked it, not me, but anyway. But it lives not too far away, so.
Sam, how about you? What's going on there? I can't quite see in the picture.
That bowl is rather shallow. It's again another piece of box elder, and I've been very lucky to have some enormous box elder burls, like 2 or 3 feet in diameter. I've got a lot of videos cutting those up with a chainsaw, and it's always a challenge. I try to make a hollow form to begin with, but if I can't, it ends up something like that. Pretty typical, and they've been good sellers. And one comment about the hollow forms, I've sold a lot of hollow forms, but they become urns, and yeah, it's just a good seller. And I do some thread chasing in those, but not much else to say about that bowl. It's a nice piece of box elder.
Yeah. And Tomislav, you got a bead around yours, which I quite like. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I believe that it's box elder as well. They're not by any means common here, but I have a friend arborist, and he helped me get those few logs of it, and he said it was box elder, so I have to trust him, I guess. But yeah, it was the tree fell, I believe in summer or something like that, and the bark just wasn't staying on. So I removed it and painted the rim, but kept the waviness, the natural edge part of the shape, let's say, of the rim. And just to, like, since it was green wood, to emphasize the movement, and it was actually quite a bit of movement. It shifted the balance of the foot. It was on the right, so not in the center anymore, on the big one especially. So just to put the bead on, so it kind of accentuates the movement a little bit. So I still have it. I didn't sold, but I think probably wife will keep some flowers in it or anything like that.
So that was another good one where we got really 4 different pieces similar, and there was I can't remember whether I put beads up the outside of that. So I think I might have done. That produced a few critiques, should we say, odd remarks. So
I think there are a couple of beads on that.
we got people thinking, which was the main thing. So.
Yeah. Yes, I think you did. So we got Pop Fit Box, project number 8.
That would be me.
Yes.
Okay. So talk to yours.
Well, yeah, mine was, how should I say this? It was inspired. I forgot the name of the turner. He made this kind of similar shape that was also carved on the lid. But I had in mind a slightly different approach, and usually the orange works well with English walnut, like, and the dark chocolatey color, and I really like that. But on this one particular, just didn't work at all, and I did try to put the bluish one color as well inside, but didn't like that either. I did a video after that as well, and I just removed everything, so it's a nice walnut without any color. So I had to change my mind.
Was that Benoit Averly?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of his demo pieces.
Very nice piece. Yeah. So you say you took the orange off that after the picture?
Yeah, took it all off. So now it's in Netherlands, so in a new home.
Richard, that's a box you've made lots of times, I think.
Well, not that particular one, yes, but that shape, yes, more or less.
Yeah, that shape, I mean. Yeah.
Yes. I have to pick up your journalist. Yes, fairly common. I think with that one, it didn't come out quite as I was thinking in the first place. There was, and I tend with a lot of these videos, I tend to pick bits of wood which are going to throw up problems as I see them. So there were splits to get rid of, and so I get rid of what I don't want and then see what I can do with what I've got left, which always brings us back to drawing. So that's partly probably why I don't do a huge amount of drawing. And so that came up very nicely as a fit, and that's gone to that's in America now, so, or it's on its way. I think it's about to be delivered. So yeah, I was pleased with it as a fit and as a box. And it was going to be part of a whole group, but when somebody wants to buy something, then they get it, and the group will be made up of some other bits.
Sam, how about yours?
The acorn box really requires a little bit tighter lid because ordinarily it sits on its side and you can't have a loose fitting lid. So it kind of lent itself to the idea of a pop connection, pop fit. And it's pretty tight, but it makes a nice pop when you take it apart. This allowed me to do a little texturing, and the texturing on the top of it is from a Wagner texturing tool. He's a Utah turner. I'm not sure if he's still around, but and I also did a little carving on the very bottom of it. That little thin element there at the bottom. So that was fun to do. Good project.
Very burl from all of them that I'd harvested at my church, and it's a box I make a fair number of them, and the shape is reminiscent of probably something I got out of Richard's book. I like it. I like that particular shape.
Nice shape, yeah.
I think one of the criteria here was to have a pop fit, wasn't it? We wanted it always taking the lid off.
Yeah. Did everybody achieve that?
I think so, yeah.
I think so.
Not quite as I would have liked, but anyway. I had a better demo in the intro, I seem to remember. So.
And the
Yeah.
Christmas holiday ornaments.
I'm sure that was probably my idea because I think Richard and I had some side conversations on this one.
Oh, that's
I hadn't a
right.
clue what I was doing there.
Well, that candle holder, that's the one that's came around in our coffee hour quite a few times. I think
Absolutely. That's
brought
Bert
that in.
Delisle's idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And we see a lot of the sea urchins, but that's a pretty nice sea urchin there, Sam.
Yeah, it is. And I like the gold on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really nice. Yeah.
I can't get away from just a traditional kind of an ornament when I think of a Christmas ornament. And I have turned Christmas trees and the bell. I've turned lots of those kind of ornaments. But I'd never really done the gold leaf. And that's real gold leaf on the urchin. I'd never done that before. So it's got a finial, and yeah, happy with that.
Very, very nice. And Tomislav, that's a tree, and is the ball hollow?
This is kind of similar to that Sam made, but obviously it's out of wood, and I'm not very good at these kind of ornaments. It's not sort of maybe a tradition to make those here, but I really like the tree one. We used to make these in school as well, so it's always nice to remember those things. So.
Okay, I did something else with these too. I put together each of your pieces into one frame here. So here's all of Sam's pieces. Now let me take a quick look at this. I think it's when you look at this, you can see, oh yeah, this is one guy's work, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Have you looked at them this way?
You know, one thing I would say, over the years, I've been turning since about 1988 or so. I've never really settled on a signature piece. You know, you mentioned this turner or that turner, and something comes to mind. And I've really never spent a lifetime turning one thing. And you know, it's fine. I like to do that. It's you know, it's given me a lot of variety, and I don't know, jack of all trades.
Well, I still see a family resemblance between all of these.
But you get, yes, it's an overall style and approach, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's Sam's. There's Mike's. Mike's has a pretty wide variety between pieces that are highly regulated and pieces that are really very free.
Yeah, that's me. I'm kind of all over the board since I'm not a production turner. I don't sell my work. I don't have a series, never create a series of anything. And with the emphasis on videos over the last 8 or 9 years, it's like every week it's a new project.
Yes.
And then it's kind of one and done, and you move on. And then after a few years, you can come back and revisit the videos that were popular and do another variation.
There's Richard's. Again, I see a family resemblance among these two, particularly in your fondness for green wood.
Yes, yes. Yes, I had to come to terms with the green wood very early on in my career because I was living in Devon in the west of England. The motorway came through and the contractors bought every stick of dry timber in every mill, every timber yard. And suddenly we had to start rough turning bowls, or I say I think there were only 2 bowl turners that I knew of at that, or there was me and a fellow just up the road who went back to plumbing after a year or so. I just wish I'd thought of leaving 3 little feet on the bowl earlier on, because I would have worked green wood and that would have been my signature piece. And as it was, I ended up kind of just using mostly claret ash for bowls, and that. But I've always gone for simplicity, and which I think is probably more difficult than smothering it with beads and that kind of thing. It's people think simple is very easy, but I never find it's that easy. Just getting the curves just right.
There's Tomislav's group. Well, this is a very coherent group as well, though. It has the same kind of coherence that Richard does. So I found that pretty interesting. That you and Richard are there's very much a family resemblance in the work. Mike and Sam are all over the place with making lots of different things with lots of different approaches. and you two guys seem to have approaches that work well for you, so you apply the same approach to each new problem.
Well, I think that's what you do as a professional. If you're making a living at it, you've got to have something which you can repeat, which is easy to make with material which looks good. You know, you're not looking for challenges, or at least I'm not.
No, I like a good challenge, but I also I'm quite influenced by Richard as well. So I do try to like, it's a wrong word, like find your own voice or your own style, but it's sometimes that's kind of difficult to do when all the shapes are taken and you just have a, you know, like a ball shape, and there's only that you can do with that a few things, you know, and to be useful, and that's the most important part in my, at least, work, so I can or either sell it after or use it myself. So if I don't accomplish that, then it's kind of either in a trash or maybe just for somebody who just like to watch it, you know, that particular item. So
well, there's a very clear voice going on in the pieces in these three pieces, or these three photos that you sent in the first place.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I was pushed into that, and I really like making this kind of, you know, you zoom out, you put the music on the stereo, and you set off to make try to make similar items as best as possible, and I just enjoyed that kind of process, and yeah, I think that kind of shows, and
it does. Yeah, it does show.
It does, and there's no, even with your simpler bowls, there's no way they would be mistaken for mine or vice versa. Those are definitely different. Or if you take the one front right, I might do a similar kind of bowl, but that's definitely not one of my bowls, and it would be one of Tomislav's. So,
yeah.
thank you.
We looked at all the pieces. I thought it was a wonderful exercise. I really enjoyed watching the videos. Well, are you going to carry on with this, or are you done?
Oh, we'll continue.
I'm quite happy to carry on. I think it's a good exercise. It's a good opportunity to show, yes, exactly what we set out to do, show different approaches to the same task.
And I think remotely through emails, we've learned to figure out who's next up in the rotation and try to get the idea out soon enough so we can all get the proper piece of wood or timber and have time to think about it and fit it into life.
So I don't think we need to produce something totally different every time. You know, you can start saying, you know, you can do another wide rim bowl and just see what different things you can do this time, which I think we feel like doing. Another box, or I'm sure we're doing more boxes, more this and that. So,
I mean, I'm really pleased and like how much we've done. And actually, John, when you show the complete picture of our work, it's actually quite a lot. And I haven't noticed, to be honest, that we actually turned that many items. So,
you know, one really nice part of this is it's one less idea I have to come up with each month for a video. You know, I love it, but it's been so much fun, and you know, to get to know, I've known Mike probably better than the rest, and we talk on the phone once in a while. But it's just been fun to get to know Tomislav and Richard a little bit better, and that's been great for me as a turner.
Did it ever occur to you guys to put out the information of what you're going to make next out to the world before you make it, and let the people who are watching the videos participate and take their own shots at it?
that's exactly why it's not done, John. We might get upstaged. Get far too competitive.
We're very territorial, maybe.
Give them 2 days notice and see what they can manage for us.
We've come to the end of it, I think, unless somebody's got something else they want to say.
Well, thank you for coming up with the questions, John.
Yeah,
exactly.
Thank you for your attention. It's been
Thank you very much.
a very fun afternoon for me.
wood shop. Thank God for wood.